question. I want to go with Pistons fan because he did ask this question about a half an hour ago, and I thought it was a good question. He said, when you look at who will have cap room and who could be free agents, do you see restricted free agency unfolding similar to next year or not? I asked because of Duran and Asar. You could even throw Ivy in there too.
Yeah, I think under this current salary cap system, I think restricted free agency has been the biggest casualty of it all. Like when you look at the players who have really suffered in the sense of not even really getting an offer sheet or not like whatever leverage that restricted free agency was supposed to create for both sides, like is just not there anymore. And so I think like I think it's going to vary on the quality of the player. I think there are some guys that are just so undeniable that you just work on getting a deal done with them. Like if I were thinking in my head, like my comfort, like my confidence level based off of what we've seen as far as guys getting deals done, to me, the number one far and away is Asar just because of how much of a freak of nature he is and how much of like he is about everything the Pistons are about. You know, like he is just to me, like that is the guy that I just whatever the number is, just sign it and just you move on, you figure everything else out later. Uh to me from there, like Duran, it very much depends on what kind of season we see from him this year. Like if he comes out and has like another quality campaign, like we've already seen the images of him and Cade out in Colorado together this summer. Like we already know how tight those guys are. Like if he's producing on the court, we already know Cade's gonna want him here. So like keep him here, right? Like that's where when we have that conversation at the beginning of the show of who needs to go out and have that type of quality year, that's where Jaden Ivey really putting out that production becomes really important because otherwise, if you don't really stand out, you could be like a Jonathan Kuminga, like a Quentin Grimes, like a Josh Giddey, where you feel like you've put some good stuff out there on tape, and even then you can't get paid what you're worth because the modern salary cap and how afraid teams are of really making sure they're maximizing these investments. And in what more of a unknown commodity can you get other than like drafting someone fresh out of the league than someone entering their second contract who you don't really fully know what they are yet?
Yeah, I mean, this is such a great question because there are going to be teams with cap space.
Yep.
But as it does pertain to the Detroit Pistons, when you ask about Jalen Duran, Asar Thompson, and you did mention Jaden Ivey, but I'll talk about him as well. I'm under the assumption that if they do get a contract extension done, it's probably Jalen Duran over the next month. They have until October. That's the deadline. I think Jalen Duran does get a contract extension done.
Yeah, I think
I
so
think
too.
I think both sides want to get a contract extension done, and I think you could probably get him at a pretty fair price. Maybe it's kind of around the Nick Claxton money. Maybe it's a little bit less, hopefully. But I think the Pistons really want to get a deal done with Duran. In terms of Asar, he is extension eligible next summer.
Yep.
Now, the figure for him, I think, is solely dependent on what he does this year. Now, if he takes a step in development offensively, that number is going to skyrocket. I had mentioned maybe it's around the Jalen Suggs type of territory where it's 5 for 150.
Yep.
But if he has, let's say he breaks out, he's shooting around 30% from three, his free throws are around 70-75%. He's distributing more. Like that's probably more than 150 if you ask me.
Which putting my chips on the table, I just think that's this. I think that's the year we're in for with Asar. Like I think he's going to be establishing himself in that kind of Jalen Suggs, Dyson Daniels, like kind of like that kind of echelon is like one of those like premier like role like young role players that's like kind of more of a star than people really give him credit for.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's around that price point, cool. If he develops, that contract goes up, but that means that the Pistons are going to be better. So it's kind of like, to me, the way I look at it, it's kind of like a win-win. You have more answers about him. In terms of Jaden Ivey, like I think it's a big question mark whether or not the Pistons, let him enter restricted free agency. I think in the event, like we see Cam Thomas, we see Josh Giddey, Jonathan Kuminga, like all those guys wanted over 30 plus million, and none of them got it. And I think a big reason for that is not a lot of teams had cap space outside of the Brooklyn Nets this offseason. But you'll have several teams with cap space next year. I'm like, who's to say? I'm just throwing this team out as an example. Let's say Jaden Ivey wants around 30 million. Pistons value him in maybe 20 to 27 million or 27, 28 million. Like, who's to say Utah just doesn't like nut up and say, hey, we'll give you 30 million. Match it, Detroit. Let's see if you really want them. Like, I think those are in the back of my mind, like it probably won't happen because Utah has a lot of guards on their team. Like they just drafted Walter Clayton Jr. They have Keontae George, who I think is kind of similar to Jaden Ivey, but he's kind of had like a weird development curve in Utah so far. But I mean, I really can't see a scenario where any of these guys enter restricted free agency, and you touched on it, unless they just drastically get worse, like some Space Jams, like monsters steal all their like talent type of shit. Like I just
exactly.
I can't see it happening, Sean. I just can't.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's hard to tell on what would actually happen if they would get there because again, like you said, it depends on how much cap space teams have, and it depends on like how much they really want to use that space. And again, we've just really seen over the last couple of years, and even like I feel like this is like relatively speaking a pretty good restricted free agency class. Like this isn't like a group of scrubs that we're talking about. Like Quentin Grimes had a really good year last year. Like Josh Giddey, I thought he showed some real growth in Chicago and like has a lot of reasons to believe that like he could be a really good franchise point guard for years to come. And Cam Thomas is also a player in the NBA. So like, it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, man, it's a weird situation,
That was mean to
especially.
Cam Thomas. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's it's all good. I kind of got it, but I mean, like Quentin Grimes, like you could argue he was more valuable than Paul George last year because he wasn't available. Like if I was Philly, I was like, I will try to meet his demands because I assume Paul George isn't going to be healthy. I mean, guy already got hurt. Like he's getting reevaluated at trading camp.
Yeah.
He's getting
Yeah.
up there in age. Like he's over 30. He's probably going to have injuries for the rest of that contract. But hey, man, that's Philly's problem. It's not our problem. I wish Quentin Grimes well, but I mean, it sounds like he wants to get paid. From everything I read from articles from the Athletic and other publications out there. But man, I hope the Pistons aren't in situations where they're kind of strong arming these guys and they don't want to pay them what these players want to get paid.
Yeah, I hope that they can find a solution that works for both sides because, it's again, like you want to be able to keep guys in the fold and pay them what they're worth and, take care of the guys that you have in house. But again, it's about the responsibility of doing it the right way.
For sure.